audio only now. What is the preview or the
taken from the documentary made on this.
yeah.
Lighting.
Oh, okay. Traditionally, the first light in the evening will be from this lamp. There are many traditions for which we don't have a regular explanation. As I understand, it was basically the oil lamp was lit because that was the source of light in the past. In the evenings, everybody around will stand up and they say their prayers in silence. So this used to be a practice.
Do you think this practice helped you in any way in connecting with the characters of your films better?
Connecting with myself. Not exactly the community, but then it is neither a ritual nor a what do you call a superstition. Of course, I have many superstitions for that matter. I trust people. Well, some people let you down. That's a bad case. But then most of the people are honest people. I'm still an incorrigible believer, so I'm very positive about life.
As the lamps have lit, so do we begin. Namaskar. On behalf of the whole SPIC MACAY family, I'm delighted to welcome you all the viewers. My name is Shraddha Gupta. I'm a SPIC MACAY volunteer currently based in Stuttgart, Germany. I'm glad to have this opportunity to be a part of this online Rendezvous series. Today, we are privileged and honored to have Adoor Gopalakrishnan ji with us. Adoor Gopalakrishnan ji is one of the most recognized Indian film director, scriptwriter, and producer in world cinema. He have made 12 beautiful feature films and more than 30 documentaries over the 5 decades. His work played a keen role to bring the revolutionary political, social, and economic film content, especially in Malayalam cinema during the 1970s. Many awards and honors have been bestowed upon him, including Padma Shri and Padma Vibhushan. The University of Wisconsin's Milwaukee has established an archive and research center in his name. His films have been shown in Cannes, Venice, Berlin, Toronto, London, Rotterdam, and every vital film festival around the world, and received a great appreciation. As it is being said, his films are thought-provoking, high quality, both in terms of the content and the style of making. So we are very fortunate and blessed to have him with us today. Our today's discussion will be guided by Harsh Narayanji, who himself is a documentary maker and also a SPIC MACAY volunteer for a long time. I would invite him to welcome Adoorji and start the session. Over to you, Harshji.
Good morning, sir. Namaskar. It's lovely to get an opportunity to interact with you again. Sir, I wanted to ask you, with the release of your first feature film, that is Swayamvaram in 1972, you pioneered the new wave in Malayalam cinema during the 1970s. Since no such kind of content existed before in Kerala, What inspired you to make such kind of cinema? What was your motivation behind?
No, actually, about making very that second batch, and I was not particularly a great film fan. My work until then was in theatre as playwright, actor, producer, and all that. But the film institute changed me. In fact, my attitudes, my attitude to arts, to expression, to filmic expression, etc. So it was the film institute which really prompted me to become a filmmaker. So I when I made my first film, I did it according to my strong convictions. To me, it's like it was not according to any plan that I will change the Malayalam cinema to this film. No, it was that there was no other option. So my uh, my and also life.
Okay. So should we request our tech team to play a clip before I ask the next question. Our tech team, please play a clip so that I ask next question.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yes.
Sir, I wanted to ask you a question in this regard. In all of your film, in most of your film, there are very powerful background music, as we just heard here in this clip, and very powerful sound effect, music, background score. But we have not seen a single song in any of your film, any of your 12 films. So what is a specific reason that you have not used song, but you have used such powerful music?
Yes. Our purpose is of answers and songs. In fact, it has nothing to do with film as a medium. No, there is nothing wrong in having songs. There is nothing wrong in having dances. But do all the characters dance and sing? So it depends on the kind of characters you have in your film. If it is going to be a film which is very truthful to life, people cannot be singing and dancing all the time. They have to face problems. They have to live a life that is given to them. So I look at issues, human problems, situations. That's what really interests me. Singing and dancing, when you start singing or dancing, those moments are completely wasted, whereas you are losing precious time, which could have been otherwise used to show life, to make the viewer understand life in its depths. That opportunity is lost, in the singing and dancing. But then for a long period of time, ever since the cinema started talking in India, we have been using these devices. They were all directly borrowed from theater and our folk traditions, which are not really filmic. There can be a film on a dancer. There can be a film on a man who sings, a vocalist. It's possible, but not everybody sings and dances. That is absolutely untrue. So we have been, the popular cinema is telling people lies, pure lies. It is not about life lived, but it's about life not lived. No, they are not even dreams. They are nightmares sometimes. They prove to be nightmares. So when you are dealing with untruth, it cannot be, in any way be instructing you, in maybe, giving you entertainment. No, nothing of that happens really. It's a very superfluous, flimsy, and worthless. So I'm not interested in making my characters sing and dance. My characters don't know. They cannot sing, they cannot dance. So they don't do that.
So thank you so much for such an enlightenment answer. And so we could say that your movies are more real or more close to the reality itself. So now my next question is regarding that. Your initial films have in some sense revolved around socio-political issues, and later it was more about women empowerment. So maybe ask, what was your motivation for this kind of transformation?
Oh, in fact, I make films on subjects that really keep bothering me. I have to search for answers. That's how I make a film. They have to really mean something to the audience who comes to see my film. It cannot be a period left for killing time. Not at all. We have no business to kill time, because time is very precious. It is very important that we use the time truthfully, usefully, for the benefit of all of us, our society and our individuals, both. So naturally, when I talk about subjects, and I make a film on a particular theme, it means that that idea has been bothering me for some time, and it is so, it lives within me, and then asks for an expression. That is how I make films. So I get that pressure from within to go ahead with that theme and make a film. So unless I get that kind of call from inside, I don't make a film. So in the beginning, there is not a remarkable change in my attitude or treatment. In the beginning, there were, of course, films were directly dealing with political situations as well. But then I have not joined sides with any political party, any political ideology in particular. So these are thoughts which are free, and I ask my audiences to think free about issues that are raised in these films. So that is my approach to films. They become more and more rigorous as I proceed. It is there. There is a lot of rigor in it. That is natural, I think, because you leave out the non-essentials and then deal with the essentials. This is a process that happens as one grows, gets a lot of experience from life. One gathers things in meditation, with a certain kind of scholarship and all that. That will get reflected in your work. That's natural.
Sir, before I ask next question, let us watch a clip. Then I ask the question.
borrowed a lot from the Tarawadi where he was born and brought up. And he grew up in a huge family, which is full of aunts, uncles, cousins, numerous. And it was one which allowed him a lot of freedom and also gave him space in a very strange way. And in a house which is full of children, hardly anybody paid attention to what they were doing and which class they were studying or anything. And they sometimes used to be at the mercy of the servants. It probably allowed a lot of room for creativity to come in. None of his aunties used to write plays, and then Achan and his brothers used to enact them, and it used to be appreciated. That way, the Tarawad was, you could call it, it was a nursery for his creativeness. And then Achan has always been a very keen observer, and he always looks for certain things which he can include in his films. He had this uncle on whom he patterned Unni, the main character in Elipatayam. Though I've never seen my grandmother, she was gone long before I was born. But Achan has been very, very, very close to her, and he used to claim that he was her favorite son. But my Amuma was quite a strong lady. She looked after the entire her entire family at a time when she had to fend it off alone. And traces of her could be seen in the grandmother in Kathapurishan, who was ultimately in charge of the family, who looked after her daughter and the grandson and the entire brood. The similarity in the circumstances which were there, say in the film Aparajita, wherein the son comes home and finds a mother gone, it is very much there in Achan's life also, wherein he was studying in FTI, and my grandmother, who suffered from cancer, even though he could make it off and on, by the time he came home, she was gone. So probably for that reason, he loves the film Aparajita much more than Apu Sansar or Pathir Panjali, which is probably what somebody else would favor. In the entire trilogy, he loves that film Aparajita.
പിന്നെ സമസ്തവാക്യം ഹരിസദ്ഗുണം സർവലോകേശൻ ജഗന്മയനീശ്വരൻ ഇന്നു നീ ചിന്തിക്കിരം സസാധ്യമിഹ ഇന്നുള്ളിലോർക്ക ബ്രഹ്മം സർവകാരണം പാർത്താൽ പരബ്രഹ്മമൂർത്തി നന്ദനൻ
പാദത്തിൽ തൊട്ട് നമസ്കരിക്കും.
വേണ്ടതും സർവൈക കാരണനായ നിൻ പുത്രനിൽ സർവദാ നിൻ ദേഹവാക്യമതർപ്പണം സർവലോകങ്ങളും സർവയും സുസൂതികാമന്ദിരം എന്നോട് കൈതവഹീനം അരു ചെയ്തതൊക്കെയും ചേതസിൽ നിന്ന് മറന്നു പോയേനഹം.
Sir, I wanted to ask a question related to this. As it is said that your film Tatha Purusham, specifically I want to ask, revolves around your own life's journey and experiences. So how much impact your personal life is in your cinema? What do you think in general, as how much of a personal life of an artist impacts their expression of art?
Each of my has some autobiographical element of mine in it. I think it is very natural because you cannot create anything outside of yourself. It's very important, I think. So even when we adapt a story from some other author, now there is a process of selection in the adaptation itself. In adapting a story, you find something that is akin to your thinking process, and then something that is close to you. So in every film of mine, which I identify myself with, there is a lot of myself, my life lived in the past, in the present, and all that is coming in very naturally. Kathapurishan, yes, more of it, because the entire film was shot within my ancestral house. and in the house where I was born and all that. So there is a real strong element of autobiography in it. But that does not mean, the whole story is about myself. That's only the takeoff point from where the work of art observes its own rules and goes by that. So I do allow that kind of organic growth to ideas that may have germinated from my experience, but then it has to naturally observe the natural course of growth and attainment of what it has set out to do. So that's very natural. Even in a minor film, you'll find that I'm there. In a film where I see myself even in a villain's role, not only in the hero's role. So each of us has these very contradicting characteristics of human behavior. So it is like a writer, who has very, very austere, very highly principled characters in it. At the same time, you have people who are hoarders, who are liars, who are thieves, who are smugglers. But then, for a writer, they are all the same. Where he is virtuous or abominable, they are the same. They are all dear to him. So it is the way I see it.
Thank you. So the next question is, in a career spanning over 5 decades, you had made 12 feature films to date. Your films are made in Malayalam language and often depict the society and culture of your native state, Kerala. Did you also ever thought of making films in other language and other socio-political issues of other regions as well?
No. I have never attempted to do that because I always talk about things I very closely know about. The life outside Kerala, I have only a very, very general idea about the life lived there. I cannot be authentic about what my characters would do in a situation like that. So in India, life is similar everywhere, whether it is north or south. But at the same time, there are very, very, very minute differences in the way we live. Also, it depends on the climate, the weather conditions, the kind of dress you wear. So many things are in it, and also what you eat. So many things are so different from each other. There are nuances of differences. So I think I am incapable of making a film in another language in another region. Only on 2 occasions I have strayed onto the borders. One was to the northern part of Kerala, that is Karnataka. That's only the border, and again on the southern side, bordering Tamil Nadu. Only in these 2 instances, but they are in fact the life lived in those places are very similar, and my characters are settled there in those areas. So it went very well. But I have used both Malayalam and Kannada in one film, and then Malayalam and Tamil in another. So it went very well because the audiences would understand both. Other than that, I wouldn't attempt a film set in the northern part of India because I know very little about that life.
Sir, I want to ask you next question. As you have lived through the period of freedom movement, you have seen Gandhiji's assassination, the emergence of Naxalite movement, also declaration of emergency in a democracy. You have seen all those things. You have the utter experience of dealing with such situations and reacting to it through your art, through your creativity, in a sharp and unique way. So I wanted to ask you, as currently we see the whole world is dealing with a pandemic, tragic pandemic situation. It's a great tragedy for entire world. How do you feel the people in the world should deal with it? And how do you think it should be reacted by artists like you?
For a creative person, these experiences are highly impressionable. But it does not mean that you should immediately go and do a work, based on this experience, because this experience has to sink down, and you also need a certain distance from the actual experience to have a proper perspective of what happened or what we have gone through. It's very important. There is always in my work, as I see it, there is always an yesterday. It can be an immediate yesterday, and it can also be a long back yesterday. So it's very important for me to have that very organic distance from an experience, to recall it, examine it, and then feel inspired about doing something about it. I'm very sure a very tragic, at the same very challenging situation like today, which is being faced by the entire world, will give rise to several works of art in different forms. So, but it cannot be like a newspaper report, It cannot be like something you do it on the spur of the moment. It cannot be. It's always experience recollected in tranquility that will give rise to poetry, to art, any form of art for that matter. So it will have definitely its impact on all the writers and artists, no doubt about it.
Thank you, sir. So the next question I would be asking, as cinema and society reflect each other's perspective by allowing portrayal of norms, being what is right or wrong for areas of gender, civil rights, etc., how can a young person decide the difference?
Yeah, actually, today's filmmaking is not just about storytelling. An important work of art in cinema should make the person, the perceiver, experience things at different levels, at the very superficial level. That is the story aspect, and then the other levels of understanding. Even with one visual shown in the film, you come to know about several things, about the life lived there, about the people, about the climate, about the kind of dress people wear, the transport. So many things come in within the frame of a very well-made film. So, and also to understand, it has many, in today's cinema is very modern, in fact. Cinema was born as a modern art, and then it has been keeping abreast of what has been happening around the world. So it's very modern. The most modern art form is cinema. So cinema, it tells stories. It makes you experience things. You wouldn't get from other art forms, or even from literature and other forms of expression. So cinema has a very interesting role in today's time. And to understand cinema properly, a young person, boy or girl, should be well versed in what is happening around the world. That's very important. I see my viewer, an ideal viewer of my films, someone who is well read, someone who worries about what is happening around. Somebody is a keen observer of things. Somebody is somebody has a perspective about things that we see. Somebody who is impressionable, in fact. Now, that kind of in short, you have to have some experience of life to understand and appreciate my work. This is my feeling, because in a very short period of time that you spend inside the cinema, I want my audience to experience a lot more than what you can experience in real life in 2 hours' time. So this is a real challenge. So the young audiences have to be not only well read, but are also well aware of what is happening around the world, and they have to be people who have the humility to seek and understand things around them. That's very important. Every art form born until the beginning of the cinema has been an influence on cinema. But then cinema has not been a real good, genuine cinema is not a copy of any of those art forms. In fact, a genuine good work of cinema will have the culture of all these art forms. This is very important. The essence of what human race have gone through in terms of aesthetic experience, that will be there in a well-made film, in a good film, in a meaningful film. That is what I think.
In addition to that, if you would make a socio-political film in current circumstances, which topic would you choose?
I can't tell you because my last film was made 5 years back, and not 4 years back. But even today, I do not know what I'm going to do next. I've not settled on any subject, so takes a long time. It's one may seek some idea, but then ideas come to me because I cannot go after them. So when something very interesting occurs to me, and when it bothers me, then I start thinking about a film about that thought. But very often, it is usual that after a time I lose interest in the subject, and then I give up. This happens. This is an ongoing process. It has been an ongoing process for a long time. That's why it takes a long time to decide on a subject and then work on it. But then that has been my style, that first it was forced on me because in the beginning it was very difficult to find a person to financially back the production of film, because in those days, nobody would trust somebody who was trained in filmmaking to be making films. Everybody in the industry, so-called film industry, thought that you have to be an assistant to somebody for at least half a lifetime before he is graduating, before he can be considered to be graduated in filmmaking. So that kind of notions were reigning supreme, in those days. So we had to, in fact, by making our first film, this was proved wrong. That the best right way is to come into films with the proper understanding about the medium. That's very important. More than all the other preparations, it's very important to know your medium, the visual medium. How will you use the visuals? How important is the compositions in your work? How important is the movements in your work? How important is everything in your frame? Not only in terms of picture, but in terms of sound as well. So this is a very complex kind of art form, which has to be imbibed by regularly exposing oneself to the best kind of cinema, and also support it with proper reading, proper understanding of things, proper interest in other art forms, not only just cinema. You have to be interested in theater. You have to be interested in literature first of all, and then so many other art forms, in music, in painting, in everything. Everything is very important for a filmmaker. So people think it is very easy that you take a camera and go out and shoot. And that's what is happening mostly these days. And they don't even have to write a script because they are too lazy to write a script, because writing a script means a certain discipline. You have to sit down and imagine what you are going to do. You have to put it down on paper. This is a lot of laborious work. Even film institute students, they fight shy of doing that. So this is very important. That it's a very demanding kind of life that you are accepting for yourself. So before launching on cinema as a profession, one has to be worried about these things. You have to devote your life. You have to devote your entire yourself into it. No, you cannot be making films to make money. That is a completely different direction. That is like a business. You invest some money and then you make a profit. Cinema has the prospect of giving you more money than any other business. So people think that it is a cozy life that you have. Yes, that is one way of looking at it, and one way of living it too also. That is it.
Sir, How do you see works of the younger generation filmmakers? Their understanding of the subject, research, and making it relatable to the society. Uh, Younger generation filmmakers.
You cannot make a blanket comment, but amongst the young people, there are a few people who are doing this exercise, either by going to a film school or by kind of teaching themselves the discipline of cinema. It is there. There are a very few. There, those people who have made worthwhile films from amongst the young people. Each of them has been spending their time and attention to learning things very, very assiduously, very, very devotedly. They have been spending their time to the understanding of the medium. It's very important. You may have a great idea, but how will you put it across? You have to know the medium. You have to know the meaning of colors. You have to know the meaning of composition. You have to know the meaning of movements, both camera movements as well as the character movements. So many things. So you have to learn it with great perseverance, with great patience, with great humility. Then only you learn. So there are a very few. I cannot make a blanket comment. Most of them think that it's very easy to make a film because now there is no processing of the film. As soon as you shoot something, you can watch it and you can see it and you can comment on it, etc. So they think it is all very easy. So the tools have become very, very simple now. It has become accessible. It has become, it has given you a certain freedom in that sense. But it is like literacy. A lot of people are highly literate. That doesn't mean that everybody is writing poetry. Even if they write, is it readable? This is a problem. So this misunderstanding has to go. That everybody can make a film and then make people see. There have been accidents also. Some people who know nothing about filmmaking, they depend entirely on a cameraman or other technicians who work with them and make a big box office hit. It's quite possible. It's by folly they become successful, and they think that is the norm. That's the danger in that. In fact, even to make the most successful commercial film, you have to be a very, very good technician. You have to be a very well-read person. Very important. Very important. It's not that easy to make commercial films. They're also very done with great attention given to details and etc. There are accidents, of course. Very bad films get very widely distributed and seen by the people. At the same time, very, very finely made films flop at the box office. Quite possible. That doesn't teach you anything. That doesn't give you an example.
Thank you for the answer. So maybe we could just rewind a bit, because when we are growing up, that time there are many things which we learned from. So as I've read about you, that you had a job and everything, and you left it for the screenwriting, and you totally changed your career path from there. So what were your biggest motivation doing that? And also as a child, and also as an emerging artist, what were your biggest lessons?
Well, I was basically interested in theatre. At the age of 8, I first appeared on the stage in the school. From that time, I have been writing plays, even as a young fourth, fifth standard student. I started writing plays, started acting in them. I had even a company of my very close relatives who we all worked together, in staging plays and all that. The interesting part was at home, we were, what we did were presented before family audiences, and they took us very seriously. This was very important for me because my parents, my close relatives, they were all interested in arts, because my family had a long tradition of being patrons of Kathakali and the similar art forms. So in those days, see the traveling artists, musicians, vocalists, and others used to to come to our family house and perform. And they used to be patronized by that. So there was the atmosphere, right atmosphere, prevalent in my family. My mother's eldest brother was a connoisseur of arts, and my mother's younger brother was an artist himself. He used to be a painter, and he used to write plays, and I used to act in his plays also. So the usually people, in a normal house where children are sent to school to study, they are not. The elders don't encourage children from becoming performers, theatre artists, and all that. But exactly, we had the opposite kind of a situation available in the family. This was a great impetus given to me. So from my childhood, I started. I saw myself as a theatre practitioner in due course, and I had, even before joining the film institute, I had published my plays. Some of them have been performed several times on stages. So cinema was some kind of a sheer chance meeting for me. It was at that time when after my studies, I was employed in a central government office as a statistical investigator. Then I worked for a year and a half or so. Then I resigned from there. I wanted to pursue my other studies, particularly in theatre. And at that time, there was only School of Drama, which was giving tuition in theatre. So later I found that School of Drama, the medium was Hindi, and my Hindi was very poor, and I thought I will be misfit there. So I did not even apply for it. So then I chanced upon this advertisement calling for applications for admission to, there had to be a test and then an interview and all that for admission to this film institute in Pune. At that time, it was only Film Institute. So I applied, imagining that I would learn a lot more, by joining this course in screenplay writing and direction. So I imagine screenplay writing should be close to or similar to what playwriting was, and then I wanted to learn it academically. That's how I joined the Film Institute. At that time, I had no idea about becoming a filmmaker. In fact, this was just a opening that was in front of me to further keep myself in theatre. That was the idea. So, in fact, even the whole of the first year in the institute, I spent reading about theatre and theatre practice in the institute. It was cinema learning was going parallelly. It took, in fact, more than a year for me to wean the influence of theatre, to wean myself from the influence of the theatre, and then concentrate myself in films, in cinema. So this was made possible because of the great films I saw in the Film Institute from its very inception. Films that were just few seconds long. That's how it started, and then the way it grew it developed through the decades. All the history of cinema, how the aesthetics was developed, how things became more and more complex and interesting. That's how it was. So the Film Institute was the real one big influence on me as a filmmaker. How did I become a filmmaker? You had not joined the Film Institute.
All right, thank you. So now we are live currently on YouTube and Facebook. So we would like to ask the audience to ask as many questions as they would like to. And I want them to know that I will address as many as I can in the time we have today. So now maybe we can go with the first question. That is from Mrs. Ramani. And her question is, what is your favorite film till date as a director and why?
You mean of my films or other films?
In general, what is your favorite film? And then maybe you can answer both in general and also among yours.
No, from amongst my films, I don't make any choice because each of them I made with great understanding and love and attachment. I cannot, like, it's like my children, I cannot choose one child uh, in preference to others. I cannot do that. So as for others, there have been so many great films. If you ask for Indian films, my most favorite film has been Ray's Avarajidu. Avarajidu has been a great, although I liked several other of Ray's films. Avarajidu was my most favorite film. In fact, once I even told Satyajit Ray that that's my favorite film. I asked him, which is your favorite film? He said, not Avarajidu. He said it was um, I forget the title of it. Tagore story. Where, what is that film? Unfortunately, I cannot immediately. It doesn't come to my mind. Madhavi Mukherjee did the main role in that film.
All right. Sure.
Yes.
So maybe, yeah, then I can ask the next question. So next question is coming from Shri R.M. Tiwari ji, and he is asking, how do you look at reality, sir? Though observing life or reading books?
The experience of life is gained through first one from experience, from then the observation, then from reading, from seeing, from hearing, from interacting with other humans, not only humans, even other animals and birds and everything around you. You learn from everything. Inspiration comes from everywhere. Everything in life is important. Nothing is unimportant. Only you have to have a certain sympathy for those things. You have to have a certain feeling for those things. You cannot dismiss something as unworthy. That's what one should never do.
Okay. So next question is from Mrs. Saraswati Shubhu, and she is asking, some film critics say that each time a viewer watches a film, or he or she, in a sense, rewrites the film. What are your thoughts on this statement?
Well, the film doesn't work on the screen. Actually, it works on your mind. Then only it makes a sense. So that's why very many commercial films, which may have done number of days in the cinema, when you leave the cinema, nothing stays in your mind. You forget it. You leave it behind. Whereas you watch a worthwhile film, then you take that experience with you for the rest of your life. It works on you, on your attitudes, on your mind, on your entire life living. It affects you. That is the real function of a work of art. You should question the status quo. In fact, the person who went into the cinema with a certain attitude, he comes out changed because the cinema has changed you. What you experienced inside the cinema has changed you. So to relive an experience, the audience has to have that level of understanding of things. That's very important. Basically, what I'm trying is to share an experience with my audience. To share an experience, the audience also should be prepared. People general impression is that you watch a film and you forget it. It is only a time killer. It may be true of most of the films, but then a worthwhile film is taken in by the audience and then experienced. Then only it becomes meaningful. So I agree with her comment.
Mm-hmm. So next question is from Shri Vijay Jagirdarji. He's saying, Namaskaram Adoor Gopalakrishnan ji. A good film reflects the unspoken reality of society and is reactive. Could it be proactive and suggest course correction, better ideas of future for society?
Yes, of course. When you watch a film worth its name, it prepares you to ask questions and seek answers. It's very important because that's how the change comes. The change is starting from where you become aware of things. Very often we are not aware of things. Things are there all around you, but you don't have the awareness. This a great work of art, whether it is literature or cinema or theater, makes you aware of this. That awareness, at the level of awareness, is the point from where you start developing yourself, your attitude, your approach to things. This is very important.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So another question is coming from Dr. Shivaraji, and he's asking, the plot of Ilipathyam has political undertones. Do you agree?
Yes, in some way, everything you do has political overtones, because overtones, undertones, and all that. Because when it is dealing with life, there is a certain politics coming into play. Because a film like Elipatayam, Rat Trap, talks about somebody who refuses to respond to things around him, and he starts withdrawing into himself. He goes to the extreme where you get cut off from everything else in life, even from your near and dear ones. Now, what happens to somebody who stops responding, who stops acting, and who stops reacting? What happens to him? Then his very existence is in question. What is the meaning of being? These are the questions asked in Elipatayam. Not directly, but then these are the thoughts that should emerge watching Elipatayam.
So another question is coming from Mrs. Charu Sanan. She's saying, Namaskar, sir. Please share one of your unforgettable moments from your FTII days.
There have been several movies. There have been several of them. In fact, right now, I'm writing a cinema biography of mine. It has nothing to do with the other things in my life. I'm just writing about from the first time I was taken to a cinema, and then when I was exposed to film. From that moment, significant things in my life connected with cinema, including, of course, my own films, how they came into being, etc. I'm writing a long piece on that now. It's being serialized in Malayalam. So there are situations where I cannot say which film influenced me most, which inspired me most, more than influence. There have been several of them, great authors. There have been so many great films already made, in this medium. Each one is so different in style. Each one is so very, very, very important for me as a filmmaker. So I have been inspired, and then when also there have been very bad films which, when I watch it, well, I say I am influenced by that, because I learned that I should not make a film like this one. That is great lesson. So I learned from everything, from good ones and bad ones. So even though I admire all these films, I am aware that my approach should be only mine. I should not be copying somebody or following someone. That will be a wrong thing to do. And in fact, most important of all, I should not even imitate myself. So every time I make a new film, it's a challenge, new challenge for me to charter new areas, new approaches. All these are very important for me. Then only I feel challenged. Then only I feel excited about doing that work.
Okay. Then another question is coming from Mrs. Sujata Kuliji, and she's saying, Namaskar, Adoorji, and everyone. What would be your Guru Mantra for today's filmmakers?
I didn't get your last part of the question.
I would repeat it.
Last part of the question.
Yeah, I would repeat it. What would be your Guru Mantra for today's filmmakers? Guru Mantra, like what would you say as a rule?
My advice. In fact, don't take any advice from anyone. That's my advice. Because you have to discover yourself. It's a hard. We already talked about it. It's a hard process. Becoming a filmmaker is a very hard process. You have to do hard work. It's not an easy thing. If somebody thinks it is very easy, then he will not go very long in the profession. To be doing something new, to be doing novel things, to be doing interesting things, you have to know a lot. You have to study a lot. You have to be really humble, and then don't take anybody's advice, because advices can be very wrong. I don't want to give any advice in that sense. My only advice is keep your mind open, learn, and then have the humility to learn. That's very important.
Thank you, sir. Then maybe we can take one more question. So another question is asked by Kanwalgit Singh ji. Sorry for my pronunciation. Do you think the captions in a film do convey the original thoughts?
You mean the subtitles? If you mean subtitles is a compromise, because when the viewer cannot understand the language spoken in the film, the idea of what is talked has to be conveyed to the audience in a very briefly, in fact, a very concise transmission of an idea. It's very important, and subtitling is a very important job. It has to have this meaning and spirit of the dialogue delivered by a character. So that helps a lot. Without the subtitles, most of the films will go completely lost on an audience which doesn't understand the spoken language. So it's very important to have it written by. Very often you find it, literal translations of the original dialogue done on the screen, and people don't get time to read it. So before you start reading the first line, it is gone. So it's another area of expertise is subtitling. You have to have a command over two languages: the original language spoken in the film, and also the language in which you are translating it, and also how to convey it within the shortest space of time, and that's very difficult. But then there are great experts who gets the crux of the dialogue, and even when there is some humor in the dialogue, it is conveyed, and all the punch and all that come within the expression of the subtitle. It's a very difficult, but then worthy exercise.
Thank you. So one more last question, I guess we can go just at the this moment. So Namaskar, sir. Another question is asked by Shrikant Krishnan ji from Trivandrum. He would like to know that to find a story, which factor you focus more: emotional impact on the society using a medium, or giving a message to society?
The story comes second, or maybe even third. So what is important is to decide on what you are trying to say, what is your theme, what is it that you wish to express through it? That's what you call theme. The story is a clever way of conveying this theme, and to convey it effectively, the story as such is not enough. You have to have a proper treatment about the film. Then you have to have a script. You have to have other levels of writing. So it has to go into all nuances of it, the characters, the situations. All that is very, very important. Story is just one element. Story is important, of course, no doubt about it. But what are you trying to say through the story? That's the most important thing. What is your theme? Story is just a way of conveying the theme. Stories appeal to you where there is a emotional content, where there is a something which is what you are looking for is something which is unique and at the same time very universal. It's very interesting because it has to have a universal appeal and then it has to feel like a unique experience. This is very, 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 very difficult balancing process. So story is of course very important, but that comes only second or third in terms of order of preference. It should be basically the theme more than the story. What is important is the plot, how you arrange the story. That is the plot. So generally you call it story. It's okay. Story is very important. But then what you will see in most of the popular films is it's very often it's a rehash of what has become popular in the popular cinema. They pull out elements from here and there and then go into it. It becomes a picture of several things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Sir, we are coming towards the end of the discussion today. As you know, SPIC MACAY is a voluntary movement spread across India and many other countries abroad. Voluntary youth movement. Any message would you like to give to SPIC MACAY volunteers, youth who are pursuing art, following art as a hobby?
Oh, I am very closely associated with SPIC MACAY, and I have been a regular at SPIC MACAY assemblies. So I know the importance of SPIC MACAY and how important, how valid is its working, how the you people, particularly the young people, how it enthuses them, all that. It's very, very important. At a particular age, you become aware of our great art forms and great artists. They listen to their performances. They watch their performances. In fact, even cinema, they screen for these assemblies. So it's a very, very important movement that has been initiated through SPIC MACAY, and so I'm very well aware of it, and I consider myself part of it, and I wish very well for SPIC MACAY. Yes.
Yeah, sir, many thanks for giving us an opportunity to interact with you. It has been a very interesting, lovely interaction, inspirational interaction with you. Before we end, I would also like to thank our team who has supported this to happen. First, I'll thank our backend team, tech team, which is headed by Hemant from New Delhi, Advait, Surat, Manas, how he sitting with you to make this happen for us, for the entire world to listen to. I would like to especially thank Kurup, who is producing this conversation, this session today. I would also like to thank Simpi, our other volunteers, Yatha, everyone else who has contributed in making this happen. And I thank you a lot for coming, giving us an opportunity to interact with you, and we hope to interact with you again and again in coming times. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It has been a privilege to be talking to the audience of SPIC MACAY, all the young people who have the enthusiasm to learn things, appreciate things. I wish them well. And particularly, I thank Kiranji, who has been the great inspiration behind the whole movement. Thank you very much.